Hello and good evening. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching News at 10 with me, Shuhaida Arifin. The number of COVID-19 new cases in the country continued to drop for 4 days in a row, with 15,669 cases reported in the last 24 hours until noon today. Despite the downward trend of new cases, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah in a statement confirmed that Malaysia has crossed the 2 million mark in overall cases since the pandemic started last year. Selangor was back to reporting the highest number of cases with 2,632 today, followed by Sarawak 1,983 and Johor 1,974. The Health DG said 18,053 patients were discharged today, bringing the tally of recoveries across the country so far to 1,764,579. The number of daily deaths and active cases will be updated from midnight on the COVID Now website. He also said a total of 29 new clusters were identified in the 24 hours as of noon today, in which 14 of it involving workplace. The government's decision to reopen more economic sectors was done as the lockdown measures is no longer apt and feared to have more implications, including on mental health. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the decision to reopen the sectors was made after taking into account the data from the risk assessments conducted by the Health Ministry and the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs.
Langkah mengurung rakyat tidak lagi dilihat sebagai sesuai, malah dikuatiri mendatangkan lebih banyak implikasi, termasuk kesihatan mental. Sekaligus kita perlu memberi keutamaan dengan membuka sektor ekonomi. Pembukaan ekonomi bukan saja dapat membantu mempercepatkan pemulihan ekonomi, malah memberikan peluang dan ruang untuk rakyat memperbaiki hidup.
Speaking during question time at our Rakyat sitting today, the Premier also said it is important for the public to be disciplined, practice self-control and ensure adherence to the SOP. In terms of battling with the COVID-19, he said the future of the country depends on everyone and not just on the enforcement officers, as members of the public have the responsibility to protect themselves. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also revealed that the government will continue with policies and strategies to increase income and purchasing power of the people, especially the poor households in the B40 group. The Prime Minister said the government would also strive to improve their access to basic necessities, including education, health and housing. According to the Premier, the government had previously provided short-term assistance under 8 economic stimulus packages, including the Bantuan Prihatin Nasional BPN, Bantuan Prihatin Rakyat BPR and Phase 1 of the Special COVID-19 Assistance BKC. He noted that the government would now shift focus to mid and long-term plans to assist the people. The Premier said part of the efforts include providing entrepreneurial training as well as reskilling and upskilling the people so that they would be able to increase their earnings or create new source of income in the future.
Begitu juga dengan kalau nak memulakan perniagaan, mereka mesti mempunyai sedikit modal. To start up business mesti diberikan kepada mereka. Jadi sebab itulah kita menyediakan, BSN menyediakan modal to start up dia punya bisnes, MARA pun menyediakan, dan yang lebih penting adalah untuk long term, iaitu membuka semula ekonomi. Jadi inilah yang kita jangka apabila kita buka ekonomi, maka peluang mereka untuk mendapat pekerjaan, untuk memulakan perniagaan, boleh membantu mereka untuk meneruskan hidup, dan kita percaya akhirnya jurang kemiskinan ataupun peratusan kemiskinan itu dapat kita kurangkan.
The government will be simplifying its COVID-19 Standard Operating Procedures (SOPs) so that it is better understood by the people, industry players and enforcement agencies. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein said currently there are 181 SOPs covering all 4 phases of the National Recovery Plan (PPN) and the government plans to reduce them to only 10.
On the SOP, I can announce that we are going to reduce the SOPs yang sedia ada, jumlahnya 181. Dan target kita untuk kita kurangkannya, kita akan, MKN kata boleh buat, kita kurangkan dan pemudahkan hanya kepada 10 SOP. It will give me a bit of time.
Speaking at a news conference on the outcome of the COVID-19 Ministerial Quartet meeting in Parliament today, Datuk Seri Hishamuddin said the move to streamline the SOPs would take some time. However, the government is committed to resolving the matter before the country's transition to the endemic phase. In order to determine how the existing SOPs could be streamlined, Datuk Seri Hishamuddin said the government would not only take into account scientific data, especially from the Health Ministry, but also the feedback and views from experts and industries. In the meantime, he said the Special Committee on Pandemic Management meeting has agreed to provide more relaxation of SOPs, especially those in the low-risk category. Meanwhile, the senior minister said the opening of more tourism sectors in the country will very much depend on the success of the Langkawi Travel Bubble Initiative. He said, as such, Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri and the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry would need to prove that the pilot project can be successful to convince the government to allow many other tourism activities to operate.
Tapi saya nak beri penekanan kepada YBNC dan Kementerian Pelancongan kena cari betul-betul SOP yang boleh dipatuhi. Harap-harap tidak ada spike dalam kes-kes COVID. Dan kalau sekiranya ada pun kes COVID, kita mempunyai cukup backup dari segi kesihatan hospital dan sebagainya. Itu semua kena fikir. But most important, the people who are going to Langkawi must be disciplined, must be vaccinated. Dan kita tengah fikirkan dari segi must be tested or not.
The government last week announced that domestic tourists who fulfill the SOP criteria nationwide, including states in Phase 1 of the National Recovery Plan (PPN), were allowed to visit Langkawi beginning 16 September. Asked about the evaluation criteria that will enable Langkawi to serve as a benchmark for the opening of other tourism destinations, he said the same conditions are required for phase transition under the National Recovery Plan (PPN), such as vaccination rates, hospital bed usage and the number of COVID-19 cases apply. Despite facing COVID-19, the Health Ministry will ensure non-COVID-19 patients will not be left out of the public healthcare system, especially for emergency and partial emergency cases. Its Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said several measures have been implemented to ensure non-COVID-19 patients receive adequate treatment, including extending the operation hours of specialist clinics and operations theatre in certain hospitals after office hours, as well as improving the service of virtual clinic. Khairi said the MOH would also optimize the usage of non-specialist hospital and military hospitals to conduct procedures or surgeries through the concept of cluster hospitals.
Yang ketiga, mobilisasi pakar KKM dan pakar swasta ke hospital yang tidak menyediakan perkhidmatan kepakaran tertentu. Jadi remobilization staff ataupun pakar specialty KKM dan juga swasta. Keempat, outsourcing penyumber luaran perkhidmatan tertentu kepada hospital swasta untuk mengurangkan waktu menunggu prosedur ataupun pembedahan.
Khairi said from the cooperation of MOH with 76 private hospitals nationwide, 3,974 medical procedures were outsourced to private hospitals as at the end of July for the treatment of non-COVID-19 patients. He also said the ministry would look into the feasibility of providing special non-COVID-19 hospitals to perform delayed elective procedures or surgeries once the country's full vaccination rate exceeds 60% and serious COVID-19 cases reduce this month. The election of Dewan Rakyat Deputy Speaker to fill the post vacated by Datuk Seri Azalina Othman said has been postponed to the next sitting, the second meeting of the fourth session of the 14th Parliament scheduled for October. The motion on elections of Deputy Speaker was originally listed in the order paper of the ongoing first meeting of the fourth session of the 14th Parliament. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Parliament and Law, Datuk Seri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said the postponement was to enable Article 57, Subsection 1, Subsection B of the Federal Constitution to be amended to increase the number of deputy speakers from the current 2 to 3. Article 57, Subsection 1, Subsection B states that the House of Representatives shall from time to time elect 2 deputy speakers from among members of the House.
Kita akan membuat satu peraturan mungkin supaya salah seorang daripada speaker yang 3 nanti setelah diluluskan akan disandangkan oleh pihak daripada pemekang, tidak kisah siapa jadi kerajaan. Daripada pihak pemekang ada seorang timbalan speaker.
He said this when tabling a motion on the postponement of the election today. The motion was passed by majority voice vote. Datuk Seri Azalina resigned as Deputy Speaker on 23rd August, leaving Datuk Muhammad Rashid Hasnun as the only deputy serving the August Hall. Still ahead, Johor authorities seize almost 40 kilo of drugs. Stay tuned. Students of higher learning institutions (IPT) will be allowed to return to campus in stages beginning 15 October. Higher Education Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Noraini Ahmad said the permission was only given to fully vaccinated students in all categories and involved all phases of the National Recovery Plan. Datuk Seri Dr. Noraini said only fully vaccinated academic and non-academic staff would be allowed in campus and the process would be carried out in compliance with the Standard Operating Procedure SOP of the higher education sector.
Ini merupakan satu langkah bagi membentuk persekitaran yang selamat dan herd immunity di kampus. Bagi pelajar yang tidak boleh divaksin atas faktor kesihatan, mereka diminta untuk menghubungi IPT masing-masing untuk penyelarasan.
On the students' movement to return to campus, Datuk Seri Dr. Noraini said it would depend on the IPT academic calendar as the IPT was also required to make a proper plan to identify their students, coordinate movement schedule and ensure that the returning students and staff undergo strict health screenings. She said the students would need to get the permission letter to return to campus from their respective IPT and also from the police to travel interstate. As for students in Sarawak, Sabah and Labuan, they should adhere to the SOP set by their respective state government. The minister also announced a 20% fee reduction to all Malaysian students at public universities for first semesters of 2021-2022 academic session. This would benefit 555,340 students through an initiative worth 175 million ringgit. The government will further improve the condition for participation in the Malaysia My Second Home MM2H program to ensure the involvement of quality candidates with the ability to contribute to the country's economy. Home Minister Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin said all new participants must fulfill the requirements according to the latest policies of MM2H initiative.
Pemegang MM2H sedia ada boleh dipertimbangkan kelanggaran daripada memenuhi dasar semasa seperti keperluan pemilikan akaun simpanan tetap sekurang-kurangnya 1 juta dan pengeluaran maksimum sebanyak 50% dibenarkan ke atas nilai prinsipal bagi tujuan pembelian hartanah, kesihatan dan pendidikan anak-anak. Manakala pensiaran aset cair mesti sekurang-kurangnya 1.5 juta ringgit. Pendapatan luar negara sekurang-kurangnya RM40,000 sebulan dan lain-lain keperluan syarat yang ditetapkan.
However, Datuk Seri Hamzah said new participants would have to meet all the conditions to ensure they are truly genuine, of high quality and are able to make a positive contribution to the country's economic growth. The MM2H program, introduced in 2002, allows foreigners to purchase property and reside in Malaysia on a long-term basis. AirAsia Super App is collaborating with the Langkawi Development Authority LADA in the efforts to make the island ASEAN's first online duty-free shopping destination. The cooperation involves offering users with a new digitized and contactless duty-free shopping experience, which will see an island-wide and same-day delivery across Langkawi hotels by the end of this month. AirAsia Malaysia Chief Executive Officer Riyad Asmat said customers could also book their flight tickets to Langkawi using the application, adding that AirAsia Malaysia flights in September and October were selling fast, proving that this momentum could continue.
We are almost reaching 200,000 since day one of opening up Langkawi. With the necessary promotions put in place and offerings put in place. So obviously we're very, very encouraged with the demand. Mentioned much earlier, obviously there's pent-up demand. People are eager to move.
AirAsia will be resuming its flights to and from Langkawi with 90 weekly flights departing from Kuala Lumpur, Pulau Pinang, Johor Bahru, Ipoh and Kota Bharu. This would further revive the tourism and economic sectors in the island. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA has foiled an attempt to smuggle 39 kilograms of drugs worth 1.95 million ringgit in Muar waters in Johor. State MMEA Director First Admiral Nurul Hizam Zakaria said the seizure was made after an MMEA patrol vessel detected a suspicious boat without a registration number involving around 1.6 nautical miles southeast of Sungai Kesang early this morning. According to Admiral Nurul Hizam, the drugs were believed to be brought from the northern state in the peninsula and were meant to be smuggled out to a neighbouring country.
Modus operandi pihak penyeludup dadah ini sebenarnya adalah untuk membawa keluar dadah dari Malaysia ke negara jiran dan seterusnya bot aset operasi maritim telah mengejar bot tersebut dan bot telah menuju ke arah daratan dan seterusnya mereka melarikan 2 orang disyaki penyeludup ini telah melarikan diri.
Besides the drugs, he said MMEA also seized the boat and its 30 horsepower engine for further investigations. The total value of the seized items was estimated to be worth around 1.97 million ringgit, and the case is being investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic continues to spook the development of football at amateur and semi-professional levels when the 2021 M3 League is once again cancelled for the second consecutive year. The announcement was made by Amateur Football League AFL Chairman Datuk Wira Muhammad Yusof Mahadi in a statement today. According to Datuk Muhammad Yusof, who is also Football Association of Malaysia FAM Deputy President, the majority of the competing teams had agreed with the cancellation of the 3rd Division competition and decided to shift their focus on the next season. He said, in principle, AFL wanted to proceed with the competition by organising sports bubble from November 2021 and had tabled a working paper to all teams. Nevertheless, he said the cancellation was decided after taking into consideration all factors, including operation matters, safety, as well as constraints faced by AFL and the teams. He said the 2022 M3 League is being planned to kick off in February, and all teams who have confirmed taking part this season are in. Before this, FAM had cancelled the Youth Cup, President's Cup and the Malaysia Premier Futsal League MPFL competitions for the second year running due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Alright, so that concludes news at 10 in our top story. Lockdown measures no longer appropriate as implications loom over the rakyat. Tune in for more updates at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. Till then, I'm Syahida Arifin. Stay tuned to saluran Berita RTM and goodbye for now.